We are the Bean family, and we live here at Lemhi, Idaho. We ranch. We have 3 older children. We've got a daughter named Caitlin, and she is a senior at Utah State. We have a son named Spencer, and he is on a mission in Honduras right now. And Rebecca is a junior in high school. And then we adopted Baylor and Camilla from China several years ago. We got Camilla when she was 9 months old, and we got Baylor when he was about 15 months old.
Okay, I'm Patty, and we have 6 kids. Our first 4 were birth kids, and we had a girl, a boy, and then another girl, and then we had a 5-year gap, and we adopted Sophie from Russia, and then Macy from Guatemala 2 years later.
I'm Michelle Cummings, and my husband is Bruce Cummings, and we have 4 children. My oldest Quincy, and then my next daughter Erin, and then we have a son named Joshua, and then our daughter Audrey. And our first 3 are biological children, and our 4th is adopted.
This is my husband Andy. My name's Kim. We have Vitaly is the oldest one that's here. Jason, Janae, Sasha, Dustin, Callie, and Jackson.
Okay, so I'm Cherise Marks. My maiden name is Cherise Redbird, and I was adopted in Saigon, Vietnam.
Well, we're the Miles family. I'm Sandra. This is my husband Matt. Nats. Tell me your name.
Levi.
Max.
Jacob. Melanie.
And Maxime was adopted from Ukraine in 2002. And Jacob and Levi were both adopted from Russia in 2009.
I'm Shefali, and I'm from Centerville, and I was adopted when I was 7 months. And I have 2 other siblings that were adopted as well. And I was adopted from Goa, India.
We're the Parkers. I'm Chris, and it's my wife Laura, and our children Marilyn and Noah and Max.
Hi, we're the Bentleys. We have 7 children. This is our John. We adopted him from China, and we have another adoption on the way.
We're the Davis family. We have 4 sons and 2 daughters. We have 10 grandchildren and 3 more on the way. That's basically us in a nutshell.
My name's Kyle Finlinson. I'm that happy father.
Oh my God.
This is my lovely wife, Sharon Finlinson, the happy mother. This is my wonderful son.
We are the Phillips family, and we had 5 children, and then we decided to adopt 2 more, so now we have 7 kids in our family.
My name's Kim Tyler, and this is my daughter Xanning, and she's my only daughter, and then we adopted her from Taiwan, and then I had 4 boys.
So I'm Jennifer Westensco, and my husband Brad, and I live in Mountain Green, Utah, and we have 3 kids. We have a boy who's 15, he's in high school, started high school, 9th grade, and then another son who is 12, he's in the 7th grade, and then Olivia is our youngest, and she is 8. And the 2 boys are biological, and then Olivia, of course, is adopted from China.
Hi, we're the Zabriskis. I'm Noel, and this is my wife, Leslie. And we are parents of an adopted daughter from Korea.
My name's Deborah Wonderly, and these are my kids, Mackenzie and Esterline. They're from Haiti.
There are 2 questions that were always asked. What made you decide after having 8 kids to adopt 2 kids? And And the other question was, and it was that was kind of in a negative tone, just like, you know, are these all your kids kind of thing. The other one was, why would you go international when there's so many kids here that need a home? And it was the opportunity and pathway that opened up for us, you know, and to explain to someone, well, it's not like we actually headed out for this. This is what came our way. And why not? The kids over there need families just as much as the kids here do.
But we were always going to adopt a Polynesian son. Okay? My plan was, for as far back as I can remember, I was going to have a boy, then I was going to have a girl, and then I was going to adopt my Polynesian son. Okay? And I seriously was Polynesian. Didn't care. It was going to be Polynesian. And I knew this. It was like the fiber of my being. That was what my plan was. That was going to be my family size.
Our story probably starts with my older daughter. She went and worked for OSO, which is a group that they go in and they work in the orphanage. They volunteer at the orphanages in Ecuador. And she went, she went 3 different times. I remember sitting right here on the couch and handing out candy, and Brittany called me and she was really upset. And she just said that there had been so many babies brought in lately to the orphanage, and it was really hard. But there was a little girl that got brought in. She was 6 months old, and they brought her in at night, and she was filthy dirty and extremely sick and malnutrition, and it was, you know, really a big factor in, you know, how unhealthy she was. And she said when they brought her in, the nuns that are over at the orphanage, you know, handed her to Brittany to take care of and change her clothes and feed her, and Brittany said, it just breaks my heart. It just broke my heart. And when she said that, I mean, I don't know what it was inside me, but I just had a really weird feeling about it. I'm sorry. And she told me about a lot of other kids, a lot of other babies, and a lot of other situations. And of course I felt bad, but I never felt like I did at that point. And I said to Brittany, I said, you know what? I am gonna come and get that little baby. Meantime, we found out that she had a brother that was in the orphanage also.
Someone just knew that I was considering adopting a sibling group, and they knew about my kids who had just lost their parents, and they, you know, said, well, would you ever consider adopting from Haiti? And I hadn't until they said that. But, you know, then they sent me pictures of these 3 little kids, and me knowing that those kids don't have a home, I just couldn't. It kind of takes away any of your insecurities about being a mom or your ability. You just think, well, I'm better than nothing. That's what you know. That's the only thing you know, is I'm better than nothing. And because you really don't know if you can, even when you have your own children, you question your ability to be able to do that and just have kids. I always question my ability to be a mom and just, you know, be that selfless. And but I know I'm better than nothing, and these kids, they had nothing, and all the kids we were thinking about bringing into our home had nothing, and I knew that I could do something beyond what they were going to get.
We had been married for a few years. We couldn't seem to have children, so that was depressing, and I hadn't really thought seriously about adoption. And at the time, my husband and I lived in Taiwan, and we were there, you know, teaching English and just kind of hanging out and doing things like that. But I didn't really think about adopting. To me, that would be admitting failure. And so I never really seriously thought about adopting at all. I just had a total mind block to it. But one day something happened, a certain situation occurred, and all of a sudden I was totally open for adoption. In fact, I wanted to adopt. That's what I wanted to do. And I knew that that was the right thing for me to do.
We wanted to do an international adoption. At the time, the newspaper were stories of people adopting locally and then the birth parents doing legal fights, and after a few years getting the kids back, and just didn't want to do that. International adoptions were final, and we felt, she felt very compelled to do this.
I had thought about adopting a little girl from China. There was a huge problem with little girls being abandoned a while ago. I don't know, I would say 10 years ago I started thinking about it, but never in a serious way, just in a, oh, that'd be so great. But after the miscarriage, we knew our family wasn't complete, but knew that I probably wasn't gonna try to have any more of our own.
And so by word of mouth, we hooked up with a family in Guatemala, actually. And we worked with them for 18 months, on and off. And finally, a baby girl was born. And we were so excited, and we sent material things, we sent money, we did all the things that you do. And we were excited to get her, and then things kind of went awry with Guatemala. And again, because of word of mouth, we got introduced to somebody in Bolivia, La Paz, Bolivia, who was doing adoptions. And so we decided to explore that avenue.
My sister down in Utah had two neighbors that both had just recently adopted little girls from China. And I had seen these little girls, and they were beautiful. And I took a picture, brought them home, showed my husband. I said, what do you think about China? Look at these cute little girls. Then we kind of went on the internet and saw other little girls from China. And in the meantime, we checked into the India adoption. And because we had 3 children of our own, we didn't really qualify for the program. And so as we were going along, we were kind of praying about it, and it just kind of kept moving towards getting them from China, or Camilla from China.
We had some friends who had adopted a baby from Korea, and we hadn't seen them since the baby had come. It was about a year later. And so we called them and said, come to dinner and bring Aunt Emily. And this little girl from Korea, we just all fell in love with her. And after dinner, when they all left, we said, that's where our baby is. That's where we need to go to get our child.
I had looked in the newspaper and saw an article that there was an organization that was hosting kids, and there were these 2 boys that were not, the hosting family decided they didn't want to adopt them, so they wanted to give these boys a chance to be adopted by someone else. So they were transferred to another family, and it made the headlines in the newspaper. And there was a phone number on it, but at the time I just remember thinking we could do that. We had 8 children at the time, and I thought we may not have a lot of money, but I thought we had a lot of love in our family, so we could adopt 2 kids. So I left a message with them, and a year later I got a call that said, are you interested in hosting? And I didn't even tell my family right away, but when I did tell them, they were all really excited about doing it. So then I got to go pick out, like out of the kids that were coming from Ukraine, there's pictures and write-ups on them, and I got to pick out who we were going to host. And I just kept thinking it was 2 boys, so I picked these 2 brothers. And it turned out that they ended up being adopted in Ukraine before they could come, so I had to go back and pick again. And I had already picked out him and had not seen him. And so I said, well, I'll go back to picking out just the 1 boy. And I said, it just seems wrong, because I just remember thinking that it should be 2 boys. And she said, well, I have these 5 other boys that are older, and it's their last chance to come. Would you like to look at them? And when I did, I saw Vitaly's picture and decided that we would host Vitaly too. So they came and lived with us for about 3 weeks, and we did all kinds of activities with this organization. And at the end of 3 weeks, we asked them if they wanted to come and live with us. And they were both really excited.
For ourselves personally, we wanted to adopt children that could choose whether or not they wanted to make their adoption public. And so we wanted them to be able to look like they fit into our family. We considered, when we were in Russia especially, adopting interracially, but we just felt like for our family we wanted them to not stick out that they were being adopted, that they were adopted. And so we wanted to go with a country where they were mostly Caucasian.
Noticed in many cases that it was the birth mother who would choose the family, and so we decided that we didn't want that emotional roller coaster of being on the family or the birth mother's short list, but not chosen, you know, thinking you might get chosen and then not chosen. And knowing a family in our area that had gone through that is just not something that we wanted to put ourselves up for. So I started looking into international adoptions, and we looked at different South American countries, and their fees were very high. We were told that a lot of their money would have to be paid under the table, and so we kind of didn't feel comfortable with that. We looked into India, and at the time, India was only adopting girls between the ages of 2 and 5. So each country kind of had their own parameters and their own rules and fees and things like that. And so we just kind of felt like China had the best, you know, of both worlds. It was very cut and dry. And so we ended up choosing to go with the Chinese adoption.
And I stayed up till 2 in the morning, and we were looking for a little boy still, because now we had 4 girls and a boy, and going through them and looking at every country too. And all of a sudden, out of Guatemala, we'd really never even considered Guatemala. I found this one little picture of this little girl that just stood out like a halo, just out of thousands of pictures, 2 in the morning. And I ran in and got to Patty, and I said, I think I found her. You know, she says, let me see. She came out, she goes, that's our daughter. Just instantly, this is our daughter, we know.
We thought you were really cute.
I looked at the list, and none of the children I thought were a good match for our family, but just out of curiosity, I started clicking on their files to open them up and see their pictures and see more information about it. And she was, I think, about the 3rd or 4th file down, and when I opened her picture, it was amazing. Right away, I knew this is my daughter. And looking at her picture, all the concerns that I had about how she didn't fit the view that we had for our family or what we were looking for just went away. And I just knew she's ours, and this is it.
This was about March or so, and of 1989, and we let all our friends there in Taiwan know that we wanted to adopt. And so we had some friends who were going around to the different clinics, because in Taiwan they have a lot of childbirth clinics, and they were going to the clinics looking for a little baby boy to adopt because they already had a little girl. So they went up to this one clinic, and there was a doctor standing outside, and my friend, the woman, spoke really good Mandarin, and so great Mandarin. Anyway, and so she asked this doctor, are there any kids in here, any babies in here whose parents have made an adoption plan? And he said, yeah, there was this one. And so that was Xanning, and she was about 2 days old. And so she told them that she wasn't interested because she wanted a little boy, but that she had some friends who were interested. And so we were actually in the US at the time, just visiting for a couple of weeks, our family. So we got a call from her, and they said, we have a little baby girl here, she's 2 days old, do you want her or not? And sight unseen, we said, yeah, we want her.
Time went by the end of the year, it was about December, and out came another special needs
bunch of kids. So I got out there and I was just looking through them, and there was this picture of this most beautiful little boy. He had big chocolate eyes, and he just, oh wow, he was mine, and he wasn't here.
My birthday's in November, and it's actually on November 30th. And on November 30th, nobody for some reason was home. Even I was gone during the day doing something. And my husband was the only one home, and he got the referral on the email. And so he wrapped it up in a present and put it out on the table. And so that night when we were all together after dinner or whatever, and we were opening my presents, the last present was Audrey's referral. So that was pretty exciting. And I thought God had a sixth sense of humor. Because, you know, December was my cutoff. And here it was November 30th. So here we had this child, and we'd read all about her and some information, and she was a bit younger than we had, you know, she was like a little over 2. And had all this little information about her, but you just saw this cute little face and this cute little child, and you just thought, you know, how can you not bring her into your home and give her a little family?
7 months after our waiting period, we got this email, and it was called the referral. And so you get a picture of the child and a little blurb, a little paragraph of a little bit about your child, very little. And you're supposed to decide, you know, then and there, you know, whether you accept this child or decline. And of course, you know, 8 years ago when the email's coming through and it's dial-up and it's, you know, loading this, and the first thing I see are these beautiful round dark eyes, and she just looked like my second son, Colby. He has big brown eyes, and I just thought, oh my gosh, this is her. This is the one that's supposed to be in our family.
The actual referral just came a package in the mail, and then they called us and said the package will be coming, and you have like 24 hours to look it over and decide whether or not you want this child. And we opened it, and there was just no question from the teeny little pictures that were there. And immediately we sent them somewhere and got them blown up to a big 8x10.
6 years ago, almost exactly, we got a call on Thanksgiving, and we had waited and waited, and we were, you know, talking back and forth through email, and they really didn't know when everything was going to happen, that they would let us go. And we got a phone call on Thanksgiving and said, you can get on a plane tomorrow and go to Ecuador. And that is exactly what we did. We had our bags packed, and we went to Ecuador, and then we left for Ecuador. And the minute we got there, we dropped our bags off at the place we were staying, and they took us to it was Corbin's orphanage first, and they took us in this big room, and there was like 10 million people sitting around us watching us and how he was going to act with us. And
really only 15, but
it felt like a million. It felt like a lot of people, and I remember they brought Corbin in, and he was 7 at that time, and
we didn't speak any Spanish, and so
we
here
didn't,
we are.
He didn't speak any English, and
they go, oh, get on the floor and play with you.
Oh, he did, but I remember he was so scared, and we were too. I mean, we were scared too, and that made me sad that he was scared. And they, at that time, they let us take him. And to stay with us.
Well, after a couple days.
Right. We took him, and then we had to bring him back at night.
But then we took him to see Jada, and then the 4 of us were down in Jada's orphanage.
Yeah.
And we go down there for
during the day.
Yeah, during the day, like 4 to 6 hours. So they have what they call a bonding period, which after about the 4th day, then we loaded them both up and they felt comfortable with us, and then we took them to the apartment we was at. And so, and then we go back and forth. If they wanted to go back, the orphanage would play with the kids, but they were pretty well with us after that while we finished up all the paperwork.
Right, and I think, you know, he was really nervous to go with us, but he attached us really fast. Jada wasn't quite so easy. I remember sitting on the couch when we first met her, and they brought her out, and she was really scared and crying, and then they handed her to me, and she started screaming at the top of her lungs. And so they handed her to Jay, and she quieted right down. And
So
she
she
did
liked
that.
you.
She did that for quite a few days. She didn't like me, but she liked Jay. So, and it was fun for them to be, you know, spend that little bit of time, you know, together. So we ended up spending Christmas there. I did, but I think, you know, well, I think the 2 months that I was down there, I feel like was a really, really good transition for them to not be just taken completely out of their country and put into this house, you know. The 2 months with us all by themselves and us getting to know each other was a really good transition for them to do. So I don't know that I look at the 2 months being a bad thing. I think it was a good thing.
At the time that we adopted from Taiwan, the adoption situation was kind of in flux, I guess you could say, and the government didn't really have hard and set rules, and so the main thing that they wanted from us was just a letter from our government saying that we were good people. So Xanning's dad, his parents were friends with some the mayor in their town in Utah, and so he wrote a letter saying that we were good people and we'd make good parents and stuff like that. And so we got that letter and gave it to the court, and that was pretty much all they needed. We didn't need to do a home visit. We didn't need to prove that we had any amount of money, which was a good thing because we didn't have any, and we didn't have to prove anything like that. And so it was just very quick. And I remember we went to the courthouse, and I had her in my front pack, and the judge said, "Will you take care of this baby?" He said in English, "Will you take care of this baby as if she was born to you and as if she was completely yours?" And I said yes, and he wrapped his gavel, signed his paper, and that was that. She was ours.
Process. It took us 4 months to fill out just our papers. It's a lot of work to fill out the papers. But then they had to get papers, so that took from start to finish to submit, it took a year. Once our papers were submitted and there's really nothing left to do at that point, it took 2 years of waiting.
And so from there they had to go back to Ukraine, and it took 6 months to do paperwork and the whole process to, and then we traveled to Ukraine and we had to stay there. It took 35 days total in Ukraine, and then we were able to come home with them. And they've been here for 2.5 years.
The government does things in their own time and in their own way in the foreign countries, and you just have to appease them. And so it took about 2 months to be able to go over.
And I would get one, instructions from one agency, and then I'd talk to somebody else in the agency here and get completely different instructions on what to do. And that was really frustrating.
And as your papers kind of go through 20 different offices, 20 different seals of approval, and at any point in time during that 20-step or 30-step process, you could get stalled. Something that should, in my mind, take a week could take 2 months, 3 months. and you don't ever know exactly why that's happening. It's not always clear exactly what's happening.
Back in the 60s and 70s, you wanted to become assimilated. So when you adopted a child, my family, you know, they wanted me to get right into the American system, American life. And so at that time and point, it wasn't really emphasized to teach about culture, to teach about where you come from, to teach about your language and, you know, things about your country.
I have a master's degree in Russian East European Studies, and so we try to incorporate it, but at some point the kids get interested in other things. So we kind of, as much as we can, we stay interested in it.
That was one of the things when we were filling out all the paperwork and stuff, that we would try as much as we can to teach them all that we know, you know, about China and their culture.
Honestly, it's kind of difficult. I mean, we bought a lot of things from Russia and Guatemala, and like they have them in their rooms, but it's honestly kind of hard.
One thing that we have found, especially with Yo, is that even though we may not be Polynesian, that still is ingrained in his DNA. He still has those same allegiances to his family that, you know, we as a family try to foster, but there's still some of that in his culture in him, and we like to push that as much as we can.
I read before we went in all the websites and things that I did my planning and preparing for. I read something about answering the question, when should you take an adopted child to their birthland, their homeland, motherland? And the answer was unequivocally, whenever you can. It doesn't matter whether they're young, teenager, adult, whenever you can make that opportunity available, that's the right time to do it.
Like I said, I went back to India and saw the orphanage I was adopted from, and I came home so grateful for what I have here and for everything, and it was actually a blessing to be adopted.
A few years ago, we went back to Taiwan, and I remember, Xanning, you were about, how old were you? 16, 17?
Yeah, I was gonna be a junior in high school.
Yeah, and I think you were a little nervous about going to Taiwan because one of my goals was to go to the clinic where Xanning was born. I hadn't been there, and I wanted to go to this clinic and to possibly meet the doctor. And Xanning was just kind of aloof about that.
I had no interest in going.
None.
And she had a friend who lived in Taiwan who could speak English as well, that would be able to help us find my birth family. And I remember that you asked me a few times, and I was like, no, not really. I had no interest in going to see them, mostly because, well, I don't know what I would say, and second of all, we would have to talk through a translator, and that would just be awkward, I think. It wasn't because I was, scared to meet them or anything. I just didn't have a desire to.
But I remember her saying, I remember one day finally just saying, Xanning, do you not want to go to the clinic and meet the doctor? And she said no, she didn't. And it would feel awkward or something. I said, I said, this isn't about you. I said, I want to go and see the clinic where you were born. I've seen where all the boys were born. I was there. I want to see where you were born, and I want to meet this doctor and thank him. Because he was the one that said, there's a little girl inside of my clinic whose parents have made an adoption plan for her. And I wanted to thank him. And so she said, you mean this isn't about me? I said, no, it's about me. I want this. And then she kind of just oh, okay. So it was like I took the pressure off of her by saying, it's me who wanted to go visit. So we did. We went to the clinic and saw the doctor. And oh my gosh, what an experience. At first he was really nervous because he didn't want to meet with us. He sent his receptionist to talk with us, and he was nervous because he thought that we were unhappy with her, or there was a problem and we were coming to, say, I don't know, oh, you can have her back or something like that. And we said, no, we just want to take his picture with her. And just because we had a picture of him with her as a baby. And so we wanted a picture of her when she was older. And then he said, oh, and he came out and met us. And it was really cool to meet this man that was responsible for helping us to have our daughter.
Leslie was talking with Mikkel, and Mikkel had made the statement. She says, I like to go find out who my birth parents are, or at least my birth mother. I want to know who I am. I want to know, how she looks. I want to know, why I look this way. And as we would spend our time in Korea, I think she changed a little bit, because afterwards she would say, I don't necessarily need to find my biological mom, because now I know who I am. It was interesting. We were taking the subways, and she would get on the subway with us, but she would leave us and she'd go down the car a ways from us and just sit there, because she just wanted to see, what does it feel like where I'm around people just like me. Being here in our little community, she sticks out. But it was interesting for her to have that experience, to go there and just feel like, I'm sitting among people that are all like me. I don't stick out necessarily here.
I think the one that really stood out, that was really offensive, was, how is that adoption thing going? And we would get it all the time. And it's like, yeah, we didn't buy a puppy to test it out and then return it.
One time I took the boys, her brothers, to get their haircuts, and I took her to get hers, and we were in the haircut shop, and some lady who was there, she just came up to me and just said, how dare you take this girl away from her culture? What makes you think you have the right to take this girl out of her culture? And I was totally just dumbfounded and didn't really have a snappy response. I have a snappy response now, but back then I didn't. I was so surprised.
So, at first when I heard the idea of it, I thought, okay, I don't really like that idea. I'd much rather I'd have a natural sibling than an adopted one. And so after I saw the adoption website when my mom was looking on it, I saw a lot of kids and stuff, and kind of changed my mind. I still was a little bit scared about it.
And there was a lady working at the airport, and she looked at me and it scared Kimmy in front of heck. And I didn't know there were a lot of lines, and they were for different kind of things. And I just kind of looked at it like, which way do I go? And she said something about, she looked at Camilla and she directed me to the line I needed to go in. And she said something like, you go girl, like that little girl is on her way home. Since I was pregnant with Melanie when we went to Ukraine, a lot of people didn't understand why we would want to adopt if I was going to have a child. Why we would care about another child, worries that maybe we were adopting because we knew our biological child was going to have medical problems and we wanted some sort of donor child, or
oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, or some servant for our home or something. People didn't believe that even though I was having a biological child, we still wanted another child to be part of our family.
And they have a whole different thought process there. Thought process, well, their mother didn't want them. They've been in the orphanage for a while, so some of the people down there haven't adopted them. So you must have an ulterior motive why you adopt them.
Right. Another time we went to a grocery store, and I got this a lot because I have 4 boys and Xanning, and they're all pretty close in age. And we would often be in a grocery line, and a lady, this one time this lady said, "Are these all your kids?" And of course I always got that because we lived in San Diego, and having 5 kids is not the most common thing. But I said, "Yeah, they're all my kids." And she looked at Xanning and said, "Even that one?" And I pointed to her very blonde brother and said, "Yeah, and even that one." And so she just kind of shut her mouth and turned around.
Then we had a lady in our ward that all 8 of her kids are adopted from everywhere. Black, white, Asian, wherever, all around. They're like a UN at their house. And he was a Stanford professor. And she asked us one time in church, "So Alan, are you colorblind yet?" And I said, "No." She'd been through it. She says, "Takes about a year. About a year, you won't see it at all." Sure enough, all I see now is this beautiful smile and eyes, and I don't see it anywhere. It really is a really cool thing that you check your own prejudice.
I really think it's really, for me, I think it's nice that I know that somebody out there cared about me enough to adopt me and loved me enough to bring me into their family. Because I got a great family. Awesome brothers, awesome sisters. They teach me to be healthy, do my homework, and they teach me how to show love to other people.
Okay, when I first came, I only know how to say my name and what's my favorite color. That's all I know.
You know a lot more than that now.
Yeah.
Now she doesn't stop talking.
What does it mean to be adopted?
When they come and pick you up from the orphanage and raise you and bring you home.
That's pretty good.
I like being in this family because, well, it's great to be in a family that cares about you, you know. And it's great to be in another different culture, so then you can learn more about like your other cultures.
We have actual pictures of her birth family, and I would always I just wanted her to know that I was totally secure as her mom. I'm her mom, but I wanted her to, to be able to look at these pictures and ask questions. I was totally fine with it. And so I would kind of talk about it, and sometimes she would be a little resistant. So I didn't bring it up too often, but one time when she was probably about 9 or so, 10 maybe, she said to me, "Can I look at those pictures?" And I knew exactly what she meant. She didn't want to look at them until this time.
All of the pictures with my birth father, he's hiding one of his hands. And so she thought that maybe he had done something and hurt his hand and wasn't able to work as much or do the things that he was doing before, and maybe wouldn't be able to provide for another child.
I feel like everyone else, it doesn't make a big difference for me, like Maisie, because I've pretty much been raised after I was born.
I'm the lucky one as well. I'm just as lucky as they are.
When somebody, one of our friends, I didn't know his background, he was 10 years older than us. He had heard we were adopting a daughter. He called us in and we talked to him. We met with him. And I said to him, and I didn't understand it at all, this tells you how far we've come. And I said, "Gosh, I don't understand how a mother could give up one of her kids." And he said, "Don't you ever say that. Don't you ever say that."
He was adopted himself.
And then he told us, he says, "I was adopted, and a soldier adopted him out of Germany." And he said, "Don't you ever say that. What you need to say is your mother loved you so much that she allowed you to come into this family." And it was a paradigm shift for me, that that's really what's going on. And that's how we feel about it. I mean, the amount of love for somebody to be able to do that. And then we take it from there and we put everything in, but the weirdest thing, they feel like our kids right out of the gate.
There was a time when I had some people say to me, oh, your daughter, Xanning was about 17 or so, and they said, your daughter's going to have problems because she's adopted, and you need to address these issues, because she's adopted. And I'm thinking, gosh, what kind of problems? I don't know. She's been a pretty good kid for the most part. I didn't know what to do. So I found this book that said something about 10 things I wish my adoptive parents knew. And so I thought, oh brother, how awkward. But I thought, I put a note on the front of it and I said, Dear Xanning, go through this book, and if there's anything that you want me or your dad to know, just dog-ear the page and put it on my bed, and we'll know what to do. And so I put that on her bed, and a few days went by and she didn't say anything, and a few weeks went by. 2 or 3 weeks went by, and I finally just said, hey Shan, did you get that book? And she said, what book? I said, that one I put on your bed. And she said, that adoption book? I said, yeah. And she said, Mom, you're my mom, Dad's my dad, the boys are my brothers, and I'm an American. Can we get over this adoption stuff? And so then I thought, okay, I have a well-adjusted daughter.
I would do it again 1,000,000 times, because we love these little guys so much, and they're such a blessing to our family. And now we get to keep them forever, huh? Mm-hmm. And they just make us
Complete.
There was a point a couple months in when things were still kind of hard because the toddlers were fighting, that it was really cool. John just really started to look like one of our kids to me. And I don't know what it is, but I just think he looks like one of our kids. And it's a cool thing about adoption, have that feeling of like, he is 100% Bentley. No matter, how, no matter that he was, spent a couple years in China before he came to us.
Never would have guessed that we would have adopted 2 kids, one from Guatemala, one from Russia. And it's been a fun adventure. It's been fun, and it hasn't been boring. Life hasn't been boring.
We were happy to have her into our family, and she's just brought a lot of joy in our family, and keeps me young. Her.
It has just blessed our family. I don't know how to explain how it has blessed our family, but it has.
We're really proud, and I can't imagine him not being part of my family. Like I said, as far back as I can remember, he was in my picture. He was in my family picture.
I would say that the adoption for me and for us was one of the most unexpected things we've ever done. A very difficult thing to go through. The absolute best thing that I ever did, that we ever did in our lives. The most unified thing our family has ever done.
So I had always felt and appreciated, coming to America and being adopted by American parents was really a gift and a blessing.
Family's all about family, and it doesn't matter how they come into your family. And I just love all of my family. Love them all the same. We're all the same happy no matter how we become a part of the family.
You kind of learn that you're not out trying to find a kid, right? You're trying to find your family. And
It was meant to be for us to have them, and they're great. They make our family complete and make us want to be better people, huh?
Yep, they do. They do.
It's a good experience for not just only the child being adopted, because I was blessed,
Xanning is the best part of my life. Xanning and 4 brothers, and our family wouldn't be our family without Xanning.
And I remember just after a couple days when she was finally just starting to really be calm and bonding with us. And she was so cute. And I was holding her and feeding her a bottle, and I just remember thinking, it's the exact same. The feeling that I had holding my babies that were biological is the same. same thing. It's the same. It's the same love.
But I wouldn't do anything different. And I'm so lucky that we're also lucky that they're here and that this is our future now with them. And it's only enriched our experience.
When she was 5, her big sister died. They were 10 years apart. So Jan was 16 and she died. And Mikkel saved us. She did. She saved us. Oh, I'm Leslie Zabriskie.
Hold on. Pause. Well. Okay.
Some of their own kids are. I thought you turned it off.
I thought I did too. Sorry.
All right, Corbin, it's your turn.
What was the question?
What do you like best? Put your She's such a wiggler. I can't record. They won't use it if you're going like this while they're recording your face.
No, I won't do that. I want to. I love my family because I can braid my mom's hair well. I used to do my handstand really well.
Yeah, well, here, I'll do my hand.
This is my handstand.
So I'd make recordings of all the kids, and they're, I mean, so they'd be all,
Start. Yes, ma'am. My name's Kim Tyler, and this is my daughter, Xanning.
I'm sorry.